Gladiator 2 has gotten people excited. Who would have believed that, after more than 20 years since the first film, the audience would still be raving about it? Regardless of whether you like the second one or not, many have praised the role of Denzel Washington. He was cast as Macrinus, a wealthy merchant who not only sold weapons, wine, and food to armies in the movie, but also trained gladiators. However, this character portrayed by Denzel really did exist, and we will now see how the real Macrinus emerged from humble beginnings to become Roman Emperor. In contrast to Washington's role, the real Macrinus was neither an arms dealer nor a gladiator trainer. He was born in 165 AD to a modest family in Mauritania, a North African region which was quite unusual for whoever occupied the Roman throne. His full name was Marcus Apellius Macrinus, whose origins were in the equestrian order and grew without any privileges of the Roman senatorial elite. He was of an unknown condition according to ancient historians. His family had few or no ties to the senatorial clique. In fact, even the historian Dio Cassius, who described his rule, noted that Macrinus lacked the brilliance of the nobility, and criticized him for his humble background. Although the empire was expanding and African territories were being absorbed, the Roman elite often held a culturally superior position over these peoples, deeming them less civilized by Roman standards. Macrinus's origin was something that automatically removed him from the Roman elite, and above all, from the ladder of power. Nonetheless, his ambition and abilities paved the road for a remarkable rise. The military service was one of the few possible ways for Macrinus to obtain prestige and influence. He made a name for himself in administrative roles, and with time and commitment, he had a solid reputation as a lawyer and jurist, distinguishing himself in the Roman legal sphere. He leveraged his legal skills to achieve influence and recognition in Roman society, even without having to belong to the aristocracy. His wit and legal knowledge drew the attention of important personalities, leading him to rise to leading positions in the judicial system. Macrinus succeeded in grabbing the attention of the then Emperor Caracalla, who bestowed upon him the office of Praetorian Prefect, which meant he led the Praetorian Guard. Macrinus's appointment was conferred on highly trusted individuals and put him in direct touch with the emperor. The Praetorian Prefect rank was one of the Roman Empire's most powerful, not only for having Macrinus at Caracalla's side, but also for giving him unprecedented access to information and strategies for security and power. Even without noble ties, he built up his influence in this setting and developed a foothold. However, this was a perilous stance, as Caracalla was one of Rome's most volatile and violent emperors. His rule was described by historians such as Dio Cassius and Herodian, and it was marked by extreme violence and suspicion of his own allies. Dio Cassius reports that Caracalla killed those who threatened his power, whether they were guilty or innocent, engendering a fearful sentiment among those close to him. Caracalla ordered the execution of his brother Geta at the very beginning of his reign, prompted by rivalry and mistrust, cementing his absolute control over the empire. He introduced a round of persecutions and purges, wiping out anyone who seemed loyal to his brother or who could pose a challenge to his power. Historian Dio Cassius claimed that Caracalla put thousands of people to death after Geta's assassination, turning Rome into a mournful and terrified city. This terror was one of the factors that motivated Macrinus's conspiracy. Herodian stated that upon witnessing Caracalla's paranoia and excesses, Macrinus was frightened for his own life. Out of this anxiety, he started plotting the emperor's death. In April 217 AD, he joined Caracalla on a military campaign in the east, a trip that provided the perfect setting for the ambush. Caracalla's murder was carried out when he turned away from the troops to relieve himself. Macrinus orchestrated the entire operation so that the attack would appear to be the doing of a fed-up soldier, removing the burden of any suspicion from him. And it happened. Caracalla, one of Rome's most powerful personalities, was swiftly and unexpectedly murdered in the open. When the emperor died, Macrinus acted promptly to secure his grip on power. With Caracalla not having direct heirs and the legions without a leader, he seemed the ideal person to take over the throne. He had military credentials and was intimately familiar with the empire's challenges. Support from the troops came as a strong asset, and unexpectedly, Macrinus was proclaimed emperor, unthinkable for a man with no connections to the nobility. He ultimately became the first emperor without aristocratic origins in the history of Rome. Once Macrinus took the throne in 217 AD, his power was somewhat unstable from the start. He became the first Roman emperor to rise to dominion without ever having held a formal office or having been part of the Senate, since, as Praetorian Prefect, Macrinus was part of the equestrian order, a lower rank than the senatorial aristocracy. Given this oddity, coupled with the fact that he was of modest, non-Roman origin, his legitimacy was open to challenge in the elite's view. The imperial power had historically been restricted to men who had passed through the Senate and had achieved the respect and trust of Roman citizens and the plebs. But Macrinus defied these expectations and was forced to rule with distrust and resistance from Rome. He decided to rule from the Syrian province of Antioch rather than return to Rome. This physical and political estrangement only increased his unpopularity, particularly among the Roman plebs. When some senators sought to encourage applause for the new imperial family during the Circus Maximus races in September 217 AD, the people heckled and booed, as historian Dio Cassius put it, a clear sign that the Romans would not accept him as a proper emperor. As if political affairs were not enough, Macrinus still had to deal with a delicate economic situation. He was handing over an empire with high military costs from Caracalla, as Caracalla had upped the soldiers' salaries to ensure support. Macrinus attempted to cut down on these costs by offering lower salaries for new recruits, while maintaining veteran benefits. In doing so, however, he eventually stirred up a firestorm amongst the soldiers. Herodian even added that this cost-saving policy was one of the key reasons why the army started to lose confidence in Macrinus. On top of this, he looked for diplomatic solutions to forestall new conflicts, especially on the eastern frontiers, where Rome was embroiled in quarrels with the Parthian Empire. He endeavored to strike peace deals with the Parthians, holding out concessions in exchange for stability. This strategy was seen as a sign of weakness by the Roman soldiers, who were used to expanding and plundering campaigns. The legions had become familiar with the prestige and rewards of territorial conquests, and the idea of brokering peace instead of going to war was poorly received. While pragmatic, these reforms undermined Macrinus's authority and his military support. The emperor seemed weak and unambitious to the army, and part of the Roman population, a feeling that contributed to the instability of his rule. With the gradual erosion of the troops' support and the elite's trust, Macrinus found himself increasingly stranded. This unstable background gave Julia Somias, niece of Julia Domna, Caracalla's mother, the perfect opening to form a movement against him. She had a son, Avitus Bassianus, priest of the sun god Elagabalus in Amisa, and took the opportunity to proclaim him the rightful heir, alleging that he was a bastard son of Caracalla. It was enough to rally the legions, who were disgruntled with Macrinus. All hell broke loose for Macrinus in June 218 AD. Troops allegiant to Bassianus, who would become known as Heliogabalus, defeated Macrinus's forces in battle. Recognizing that he was trapped, he attempted to flee along with his son Diadumenian, but both were captured and executed. A tragic end for a government that, from the outset, suffered from a lack of legitimacy and the pressure of Roman disapproval. Heliogabalus's rise restored Septimius Severus's dynasty and ushered in a new chapter for Rome, punctuated by eccentricities and a court that, under Heliogabalus's command, would become well known for its excesses. Macrinus's story ultimately revealed the risk of challenging Roman military traditions. He attempted to overhaul the empire, but found that Rome was unforgiving of those who dared to go against its standards and expectations. Any hint of weakness or willingness to alter could be fatal in an empire accustomed to war and expansion. Tell me if you have watched Gladiator 2, and let us know in the comments what you thought of it. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one!